Okay, well, it's complete. It's ready to go in the air for its maiden flight. Let me see, is there anything one other thing that I wanted to cover. I don't know if I spoke about this in the first look video, but one of the other reason that I chose this plane over the other vendor branded version of this plane that I was looking at, as I spoke about with the power system, this one has what's listed as a DST 820 kV motor. The other vendor's brand of this 800mm A-1 SkyRaider had a EMT 1200 kV motor. So that was the other reason that I chose this plane over that one. Not only because it was less expensive, but more importantly than that, even if they had been the same price, or even if this one had been a slightly higher in price than that one of the things I look at is the electronics. Is there anything that I'm going to have to change to get the performance out of it that I want after I purchase it? You got to look at that as additional cost of the plane. Well, I think this 820 kV motor is going to have quite a bit more torque than the 1200 kV motor, assuming that the motors are the same size, and they certainly look like it. So I'm betting that this 820 kV motor on a 3S is going to be able to spin this 8x6 4-blade prop faster than that 1200 kV motor, and I think it's going to be able to be pulling fewer amps at the same time. So that was the deciding factor, you know, on this plane. The cost benefit was absolutely fantastic too, but when I saw the difference in the KVs of the motors that they were putting in them, I knew at that point that this is the one that I was going to get, because I don't think I'm going to have to modify the power system on this at all. Now, later on, depending on how much power this shows in the air, I may end up replacing that 4-blade prop with a little bit larger 2-blade prop, just to see. But just like I did with my P51D Mustang. But I think this motor should have what I think the size of the motor is, you know, without pulling it apart and measuring it with the KV that it's listed at. I think this motor is going to do just fine with this 8x6 4-blade prop. So anyway, I'll see you out the field. Okay, I don't know when my camera cut out on the first flight. So let's get it back in the air again. And I was wrong. I did not have 100% dual rate set up on the ailerons. I had 75%. So I kicked the dual rate up to 90% on the ailerons. So let's see what that gives us. Got it in stabilization mode to begin with. All right, here we go. I moved my battery a little bit further forward this time than I had last time. Okay, so we've got it in wind mitigation mode now. Alright, I want to come back through here and then check the roll rate now. I've kicked that dual rate up. Oh, that's much better. I may go ahead and kick that up to 100%. Pretty good power, guys. I've got a vehicle coming. Had some traffic through here this morning. Run a circuit here. Wait for him to come through.
Yeah, that's not a bad roll rate at all. That was full stick deflection there. That is pretty sweet, guys. It reminds me a lot of flying my P-51 Mustang. It's not real fast. I don't think it's as fast as my P-51 Mustang. Check the roll rate to the right. Not bad. Might be a little bit slower to the right than to the left. You know me, wanting symmetrical roll rates. What do you guys think of this new little Warbird? I think I've got another keeper on my hands. That's what I think. Okay, I'm starting to get my haptic. Very maneuverable. Now we got another vehicle coming through. Okay, timer's elapsed. I just kicked it back into full stabilization mode. And I'm going to bring it through here. I make one more circuit. And get it on the ground before we get any more traffic through here. And then check my voltage again on these Lipos. Well, that was a better landing than the first one. Sweet. I definitely think this is going to be a keeper, guys. So let's bring it over here and check the voltage real quick on the battery again. I flew that about the same. You know, as far as mixed mode flying, about the same as I did the first time. So this one had 12.5 in it when I put it in the plane. Oh, this one's down to 11.2, 3.72, 3.77, 3.71. Okay, so not bad. You know, as far as efficiency, it's got good power. It's got pretty good efficiency. I think that I'm going to be putting a little larger battery in it because it can carry a lot more weight than those batteries there. So.
All right, so you didn't get to see the maiden flight. My camera cut out about halfway through the flight, so you got to see the second flight. It looks like my camera batteries are not holding up all that well out in the cold. It was about 22 degrees when I first got out there. It was about 28 degrees when I finally launched it and started recording. It was pretty windy out there when I first got out there, so I waited about 30 to 40 minutes for the wind to calm down a little bit before I launched it. Now, I really thought this is a pretty heavy plane compared to my P-51D. I know it has 50mm wider wingspan, but it's significantly heavier than that P51D Mustang, that's 750 millimeters. So I thought those was going to have pretty heavy wing loading on it. So I was surprised that when I had my Nano-Tech 3S 950 milliamp hour 25C LiPo in it, the all up weight with that LiPo was 461 grams. So I was really surprised that when I throttled it up to 70% and just gave it a moderate chuck, it took right off. It didn't even lose any altitude, it just took right off. So it actually had really light wing loading when I was flying it around with that LiPo. So that really surprised me. The other thing that surprised me, I don't know if you can see it on camera, but this motor actually has an upward angle to it. It looks like they got the motor angle just about perfect. It's got quite a bit of right angle to it, but the motor's actually got upward angle to it. And I thought, oh, I thought somebody's made a mistake. I thought as soon as I release this plane, it's gonna pull straight up. But no, it didn't. I think this is the only plane I've ever flown that has had an upward angle to the motor rather than a downward angle. So that really surprised me too. I didn't know what to expect when I launched it, but you guys saw it. I mean, it took right off. It flight nice and straight and level. It was still pretty breezy out there, so I didn't get it fine-tuned. But this is about the least amount of tuning I've had to do in quite a while on a plane. When I first went out there and launched it, I had 75% dual rate on my ailerons, had about 8 millimeters of movement in each direction. And the roll was pretty lethargic during the maiden flight. So before I launched it the second time, I had increased the dual rate from 75% to 90%. And I like that. It's got a pretty nice snappy roll at full stick deflection. It looked to me like it was a little bit slower to the right than it was to the left. So I think what I will do is I think I will go ahead and increase the dual rate on the ailerons to 100% and then put about 15 or 20% differential for the right aileron, so I get symmetrical rolls to the right and symmetrical roll to the left. I know I'm finicky about that, but that's what I like to see. It just floats right in, coming in for a landing. Now, I did put a couple of additional flights on it. I took, just in case, I took 2 of the Nano-Tech 3S 1000 milliamp hour 40C LiPos that weigh 90 grams. The 950s that I flew it with the first 2 flights weigh 63 grams. So the 1000 milliamp hour 40C LiPo weighs 27 grams more than I had in my first 2 flights, which brings the all up weight on this plane, just the way it is without any of the ordnance attached to it, 488 grams. And it was still pulling big, huge, wide loops. Didn't have any problem with power at all, and it still had light wing loading. So the next time I take it out, I'm going to take my other 2 Nano-Tech 3S 1000 milliamp hour LiPos that are 70C LiPos, and they weigh 100 grams a piece. I don't think that you're going to have any problem flying this plane with a LiPo that weighs between 90 to 100 grams. As a matter of fact, I would say, the specified battery for this is a 3S 800 15C. I wouldn't even go there. I would go directly to the 3S 1000 milliamp hour 40C LiPo. It still has light wing loading. I think that because the other batteries I have are fairly old, the 1000 milliamp hour 40C LiPos, I felt like it had more power with the heavier battery than I had with the lighter battery. I just don't think that the lighter batteries can supply as many amps anymore. Plus the fact that the 1000 milliamp hour 40C LiPo had 12.55 volts in it when I put it in it, and the 950s had 12.5 volts in them when I put them in there, because it was cold out there, and those little thin, those long 950s just don't hold their charge as well, especially in cold weather. But this is a phenomenal flying plane. I mean, it flies like it's on rails. I will be publishing soon the other two flights that I performed today. Got it tuned a little bit better, you know, trimmed out a little bit better. But as far as tuning goes, I'm not going to have to change the linkage. I'm not going to have to change anything. I do like the CG at 53 millimeters with a neutral balance. I would say if you fly your planes like I do with a neutral balance, put your CG at 53 millimeters, you know, from the front of the wing plate. If you fly it, if you typically fly a little nose heavy, then I would go with the 55 millimeter back from the front of the wing plate, and it handled like it was on rails. Is extremely stable. It's definitely a keeper. The links are in the show notes, guys. It was still on sale with free shipping last time I checked. Awesome. I think it's going to be an awesome value for this Warbird. It looks great. It flies great. And you know what? I'm not going to have to make any modifications to it. Fantastic. So stay tuned for my additional flights. And then I'll put a couple more flight sessions on it. And then I'll decide how much of the ordnance to put underneath the wings. But anyway, thanks for watching. And I will see you in the air.